Hi, everybody. I'm Rich, and many of you, I think I know many of you, looking at the folks. Glad to see everybody here today. So it's always a pleasure. I was just telling Stephanie and our marketing director who's on as well that I just love to do these webinars because it's my chance to just talk, just say whatever I want for almost an hour. But I do try to be very focused. And I am drinking Diet Dr. Pepper. So hopefully some of you are enjoying a lovely diet beverage as well. Many of you already know the shape of our company and how we have been evolving over the last couple of years. And this is on the front page of our website. I wanted to touch on it quickly just to say we have evolved, and I've been here, good heavens, going on 12 years now, and certainly have seen the growth through the e-learning brothers stages, those early days now into ELB learning. And these products and services are crafting an organization that truly has a lot of the best-in-class tech stack for learning. And as I really looked hard at our existing tech stack and even examples in the custom learning area, so I spent a lot of my time in learning strategy and custom learning because of my background. But I started to think, when in the context of learning playbooks or just playbooks, which, by the way, is mostly used in sales during my research for this topic. In all my years, it's been 30 years for me, instructional design for lots of different organizations. Now this, crazy train that has been ELB learning, lots of things happening in our world here. I don't know that we really designed playbooks for clients, or even on myself when I was a freelancer and contracting. I mean, in a way, sort of, kind of, because we do step action tables or tasks or specific things that go from top to bottom. We could maybe generically call things a playbook, but as I looked at our tech stack, looked at our gamification platform, we look at the arcades back end. Can you call that a playbook if you establish a learning journey for a client? Well, not within the generally accepted context of playbooks. But I wanted to open it up to the group and talk. Well, we won't be able to because we have too many people on here, but I'd like to chat a little bit and share with you some of my findings around the value of playbooks for our field. And I'll share some sales perspectives because the sales playbook idea is where it all began. I think it was born there. And if you're using a CRM like we are, all companies probably at some point need to get a customer relationship management tool. Otherwise, how are you going to keep track of all your customers and their deals and stages and all that? Once you get to a certain point, spreadsheets just don't work anymore. So I looked at our learning platform, and I want to talk a little bit about that and how we can, this will be about brainstorming, looking at what's out there in the world. We did promise you in the promo piece for this webinar, 5 things that are likely missing. So I had to think about that and think, in the conventional wisdom of playbooks out there in the market, what's missing? And so I'll share some of my musings with you. So let's start here, which seems like a good place to begin. I just stole these from the web, the wild, wild web. And some of these are from our own CRM. We use HubSpot, which is great. A lot of you may use HubSpot as well as a CRM. It manages a lot of our marketing and sales activities and customer success as well. If you've ever had to open a ticket with ELB Learning, it's being managed through our CRM. But you can see here, it's a complete and concise set of instructions. Content, resource links, mostly, again, sales here. Sales playbooks are a means of capturing sales best practices and communicating them to the salespeople. This right side shows us a little visual image of how it might look from top to bottom. I know that's too hard to read, but you kind of get a sense of this linear progression is what a playbook is. And then I like this last one here. A sales playbook is more than just a series of call scripts and sales sheets. Should be a go-to guide for a salesperson's biggest challenges, a roadmap for the things that they're selling. And so then what is it not? Playbooks should not be customer ignorant, whether that's internal or external customers, or whether that's the learner. The learner may be the customer. It should be we should take a very design thinking approach. And all of us probably know what that means, which is really just deep empathy for the learner. Not just what do they need to know, but what's their environment like? What are they dealing with? What are their constraints? What are they being measured on? So, there's a little word cloud here, really focuses on what should a playbook not be? Shouldn't be unmeasured. We should measure progress, because if we're going to take the time to create a playbook, then we should have some sense of progress through that playbook. And how effective is it? And what's the feedback on it? The four levels of Kirkpatrick evaluation, right? Do people like it? What's the reaction? Is behavior, are they learning from it? So can they pass tests? Can they show retention? Then there's behavior changing. That's our third step. Do we see the behavior we want? And then finally, results. Are we achieving results? So I love the word contrived. I'm using that more and more in my older age. This concept around sometimes things just feel contrived. And I even use it for movies these days. Oh, that just felt contrived. To me, meaning it was just a really surface level sort of dealing with the topic. So if you're gonna train somebody on sales, a contrived approach is like, oh, let's just go on the web, search for 6 steps for effective sales, and let's build a process around that. It feels like it's not very deep. Some of you can come up with a much better definition, but there you go. I mean, there's what it is. And again, let me go back. Here's what it is and what's out there in the wild. Probably many of you, your sales teams probably do have a playbook. And if you don't, you probably should have a sales playbook. It's very nice for new hires, as you might imagine. If I'm coming into a new role and I'm in sales, it would be very nice for me to know what's first, what's next, what are the steps for success. So let's take a look at what might be considered a learning playbook. So when I thought about this, and by the way, I did some seeking out there in the wild, as we all do. I even went out to ChatGPT and typed in, what is a learning playbook? And some of you who maybe are having some fun with OpenAI, I thought about pulling that in here, but we might all be getting a little AI fatigue now, but maybe not yet. We're still in the wild, wild west of OpenAI. But even that was, kind of contrived. And I don't know that there's anything really specific. You type in, what is a sales playbook? It is very specific about what's going on because there's so much out there to pull from. So anyway, I started thinking new hire orientation for procedures and processes. I even listed some task-oriented jobs. If you're in these fields, sales and marketing, quality control, manufacturing, healthcare, government, there's probably a million more. Well, there are a million more. And it's lockstep procedure. A learning playbook might serve you in good stead. If there's step, action, steps, task, procedures, linear process. So here's an example. This is just, I'm going to open this from our own Rockstar Learning platform. So I just went out. We got lots of different stuff out there. You can see this particular one is for us. We do drink our own Kool-Aid. So if you are a customer and you decide to buy this sales system from ELB, and we do have this out of the box, then we would sell you this. And then you could launch it on the Rockstar Learning platform, which looks like this. But I just took a look at it and thought, well, we've got a learning, could you call this a learning playbook? We've organized the courses by 1, 2, 3, 4. You can actually lock these so that the learner can't take number 2 until they've taken number 1. And no doubt you've got some of that lockstep sort of guidance as well in your own environment with your own LMS or whatever LXP you're using. But for us here, we can click here. The learner will get this experience first, and then this, and then this, and then this, all the way down to step 11. And if we've designed the training well, then there will be some nice, learning exercises along the way so that hopefully they can take away from the learning something that they can apply immediately. But you'll notice what's happening here. This is not real time, and it's not in the moment of performance. And this perhaps can become something of a holy grail for us. A learning playbook that is right within the moment of performance is an interesting idea. And certainly sales playbooks have nailed that. Let me show you an example. So we're going to talk form versus function just quickly. I took the form of a sales playbook. And you can see I was no problem for me. In fact, I think I did pull this from ChatGPT. Oh, I think I did. And it was very clear. And so I just put it out there, and I love playing with everything OpenAI right now because it's very interesting. We should do upcoming webinar, Stephanie, on, maybe we are already on, okay, with Microsoft's $10 billion investment, and now it's just sort of getting open to the web, and next year we'll probably see OpenAI in Word and Microsoft and Excel. And what does that mean for us? I'm certain all learning functions are talking about it now, but anyway, it's very detailed. You've got a sales process, you have a buyer persona, you know kind of what the journey is for your buyer. What would the pitch be? What are the proposition, the value proposition, objection handling, sales tools, sales metrics, training and development. So probably not difficult. Like you get a million different results for what's form do sales playbooks or playbooks take. And then the function is to really drive a structured and standardized approach. And this issue of just-in-time performance support is really where we win on Playbooks. And I'm going to show you two examples. At first, I'm going to make an admission to you, and you're probably maybe going to throw darts at me and maybe tell me I've been living under a rock. I hope not. I try to stay up to speed on what's trending and what's out there. And certainly our own acquisitions here at ELB Learning the last 6 years have been just amazing for me. It's been a master class in world-class gaming and how do we effectively manage learning and administrate and track through our platforms, and virtual reality, and I mean, you name it, video-based coaching, and all the things that we've got now out there in our under our roof. But what I haven't experienced is this. I'm 53 years old. I've primarily spent most of my life in the Western states of the United States. I am somewhat well-traveled, so I've been outside the US a lot, both for work and pleasure. I have several children. I'm on a second marriage. My background for my career is this, and this. I've been decades in this one field. I have yet to find a system that will take all of that into account, understand me and my demographics, and then deliver a learning plan that I would really care about. Do you know what I mean? Now, you might say, well, it's just because you're not in the right jobs. You're 50-something years old. You're well-established in your career. You know, there probably isn't something for you. But if there's not, then why not? Why am I not really seeing it? And I will admit, even I don't know if our own tools that we have really are doing a very good job of this. I think we can sort of shoehorn it or jerry-rig it, if you will, to make it work. I went out and looked at the Degreed platform, and I took a closer look at Degreed, and some of you are familiar with them. They're promising some of that, where I can really get a curated sort of flow or a learning playbook for me, for things I would care about. And so there's a million questions that go along with that, I know. But as a learning expert in this field for a long time, I'm really looking for something that would really be something I would care about, that would lead me down the path. If somebody's going to do a design thinking approach on me as a learner and have deep empathy for me and who I am and meet me where I'm at, and I've had some life lessons, I've had some professional lessons, this is the whole learner approach. So here's an example. We do a lot. Docebo is a great partner, and we do a lot with them. And so as I went out and looked at what's in the wild, I found this flow that Docebo is offering. You know, they make the point about making learning convenient, making it happen right in the moment of flow. So as I'm working and what's important to me, and if I understand already in a given job about X, Y, and Z because of my experience, I don't need to see X, Y, and Z here, but I maybe need to see A, B, and C, and E, F, and G, right? Because there's more things that I need to know about and understand. Oh, look, Docebo's offering a generative AI and ChatGPT webinar coming up. I was just talking about that. So this is nice because this tool that they have, this flow and I tried to get a demo of it, but you have to get the sales guy to meet with you. Like, we do that too sometimes. So, but that's interesting. This, can you deliver learning where it matters and when it matters? So, that's a playbook. That's delivering learning to me in the moment of my need as performance support. Now, we all might say, just like this, let me go back here. I showed you an example of our own LMS. We call this, the Rockstar Learning Platform. Yeah, I mean, it shows steps for how to do my job, but it's not in the moment of need. I got to go out there and find it. If I'm engaging with a customer right now, what stage am I in, and what should I know about this stage that I'm in? So I know there's more questions than answers here, but some of you, at the end of this is an email for me. I want you to email me if you're seeing something that's really doing this well. I think we're at the beginning of it still. Even after, we've all grown up in this digital age. Many of us, actually all of us on this call, have been around for, a while. And we're here in the 21st century. I've been doing this and building learning programs since '93. That was my first training and development job. And so in that role, I was able to start mostly instructor-led, and then here comes the web in the late '90s. And then I remember when Lectora launched in '99, I was so excited, tried to get my boss to invest in it. But we couldn't, we didn't have the budget. And then now years later, it's part of my everyday because we bought the tool 2 years ago. So that's been like, wow, really exciting for me. Sort of like things come full circle, but still waiting to see a really good learning structure and real-time playbook for a guy like me or a learner like me. And you might look at me and say, well, Rich, you're just not in the right roles to see that, because I'd like to, if I could have that experience. I'm still looking for tools that will do that well. And we, as our custom services team, we do this a lot with our clients. A lot of our clients are coming to us asking for this type of thing. And how can we best provide it? I want to show you a great example here on something that's out in the wild that actually is working really well. So I mentioned HubSpot, right? So look at what they're doing out here. If you haven't seen a playbook in action, I want to show it to you. So this just goes out to HubSpot's knowledge base. And you could go to Salesforce. Probably more than half of us on this call are using Salesforce. And you can take a look at how it works. But when our sales team, and we have an international sales team now, when we're talking about using a playbook, this, all of this right here, they spend their time in this tool. This is where their customers are. This is where their activities are. This is where their daily tasks are. This is where they set their notifications and they send emails directly through the system, and all of that's being tracked. Can you imagine the AI possibilities that grow out of this? I don't think we've begun to scratch the surface of what's possible with AI once you've got the kind of big data that companies have. Probably I know that some companies are doing it really well, but I can come in here and I can choose a playbook. So it's already been outlined. And as a salesperson, I can say, this is a discovery call. Okay, click on discovery call, and it's going to lead me down the path. Well, in this case, the learner clicked on call outline. Let me zoom it just a little bit. So they clicked on call outline. Then they find the playbook, and all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do these 4 things, and you're going to make sure you then ask this question once you get them on the phone. So as a new hire, or maybe somebody who's switching to a new role, playbook really, really helps me there. And when I ask that question, what are the top initiatives? And they say things like this, and by the way, those are customizable. Well, now I can determine, okay, well, what am I hearing from the customer? Based on what I click there, it's going to now deliver up to me the next things that can help with my discussion with them. In this case, it's capturing all that data. We're going to say, I logged a call and it's done. Well, the behind the scenes, there's lots of options that are going on. So when I know, when my company knows that, okay, this customer is interested in cutting costs and in retention, well, here's how our tool will help that person with that thing. So then we can step down the line and say, well, what are your goals? And we can start getting right into the heart of questions that will help the sale. This just shows an example of, how could you customize your own questions within the platform? So then we might start to ask, well, then if I'm in a role where I'm doing training and development for others, well, what are we training them on? Likely we're training people on processes, procedures, steps, maybe a lot of soft skills. But if you can get to that stage with a daily tool that they're interacting with, then I'd say you're really making a difference in terms of the learning environment at your organization. Again, sales playbooks are doing it well. How are we doing with learning playbooks? So that gets us to what's probably missing in our playbooks, which is what we promised. So these 5 things are missing. And keep in mind, this is from my own brain as I was researching and making sure I was trying to give you some valuable content for this webinar. Methodology. So the process. There should be a process. And if you're in a role right now where it just feels scattershot, and I know you know what I'm talking about. So is there a plan here? Is there a strategy here? Are we just going to keep having meetings about whatever, and we're going to keep just throwing stuff out there? And then sometimes it can be rough out there in the real world, as I'm sure many of you know. You get frustrated. And you're like, well, I think there is. But again, I shouldn't say that as a blanket statement, because a lot of us are doing a very good job of methodology and process. And we're thinking about the structure and how our learners should experience their job. And I use the word experience intentionally, because it used to be, how are we going to design something for the learner? It's different now. I don't really think of it as instructional design. I think of it as learning experience design. And I hope all of us do too. So what is the methodology? How are we customizing it? What is a funnel? Now, you know what a sales funnel is. If you do these activities, like we just saw back here, if I do those activities in our CRM, and again, that could be Salesforce or Pipedrive or any number of different tools out there. If you put these things in the top, then this is going to come out the bottom. So the sales funnel, I know our marketing team lives in this world all the time. If we do these things, we're going to generate more leads for more people who can receive value from what we offer. But in the learning world, have you ever thought of your learning experience as a funnel? And I think we are thinking this direction. It goes back to my lament at the beginning of this call, where I was saying, I don't know that I've really seen something that really considers me and my personal and professional stage in life, and then delivers a learning experience that is really interesting to me. I can go out and curate my own. I have a friend that I study philosophy with every week, and we've gone through the Western philosophers and the Greeks, and now we're into Buddha. And we go out and we find stuff in the wild out there, and it's amazing what's on the edX platform or what you can find on the Harvard courses for free. You can just audit them. So I can go find my own stuff, which is exactly what I want. Maybe that's where we're at. And so I maybe have to funnel my own thing, but I want to talk a little bit about that. Input and buy-in, and then finally integration and a common language. I think these are the 5 things that can make a huge difference for your own playbooks internally. Let's talk about methodology and process. So what I'm showing you here is a little peek under the hood at the custom sales team here at ELB Learning. So what you're seeing there on the right-hand side it's the process for how we go about discussing and talking about a client need. And many of you, I recognize on this call, are custom clients of ELB Learning. And so you know what that feels like. There's a new lead inquiry. There's an initial meeting. We do some needs discovery. We qualify to say, are you ready to move forward now? Is this something we should talk to you about later? Maybe you just need some blog entries, right? There's some blogs and we can help you with that. We move then to solution development. We present a proposal. We negotiate. We get a verbal commitment. We go to contracting. We submit a sales order. We send it to accounting. We say that's a closed won deal. So many of you in your sales teams might have the same thing. But look here on the left. I would be interesting if anybody recognizes that methodology. That whole pipeline on the right was built in around a specific methodology. Can anybody name that methodology? I'm looking in the chat just to see if anyone knows. Let's see. I don't think so.
You've stumped everyone, Rich.
It's a hard one. Oh, thank you, Allison. That's a good guess. It's actually based on the work of Mahan Khalsa, who's a sales expert who wrote a book called Helping Others Succeed. Let's Get Real or Let's Not Play. And it's an excellent, excellent book. And there's all kinds of sales books out there, spin selling, and you know what I'm talking about. But our team here at ELB took a very planful approach to the right methodology. And this is just one of his models, which is, we need to consider the opportunity, look at the resources, look at the decision. There's a lot in there that happens. Like in the resources phase, there's a TPM model, time, people, and money. What time are they looking to make this decision? How many people are involved? And hey, clients typically invest this much. Are you looking to make a similar investment? We've all been there in our sales world. So But now Franklin Covey bought it and they turned it into the 21, or no, it's selling in the 21st century, the demise of dysfunctional selling. So anyway, now it's Franklin Covey's sale. They're the 7 Habits guys, but that's their sales methodology now. So we adopted that, and from that came the deal stages you see on the right-hand side. So when a new hire comes in, the idea would be, and this doesn't always work, and you would think you put it in place and it's just going to work and it's great, but it doesn't always work that way. But the idea is you would learn, you'd read the book, you'd go through some training, you'd watch some videos, and then you would see when you started to actually do your work, you would see that my stages of my day are built around that methodology. And so could we be so sophisticated in our learning worlds as to say that this is how we're going to go about helping people learn? This is how we go about changing behavior. So, hey, department, who's asking for a training need from me, this is how we start. We begin by doing this. And that is, we evaluate the learners and determine where they are. And we understand that first. And what does that look like? Well, that's probably going to be a pre-assessment or something. We're going to get some sense of what's what. And then we're going to build an adaptive learning solution, which means if they can test out of this 5-topic course, we're only going to make them take 3 of them. And we've talked about adaptive learning before. We're even using machine language to help us figure that out. But if there's a process for how you're going about it, then hopefully that's documented. And in this way, it's documented so you just see it every day. But how to get folks to actually do it. It's easier with sales pipelines because they're working in the tool where you can make the playbook function and then you can track it to see if they're using it or not. Not always so easy in the wild, in the learning worlds. Okay, let's talk about this customization. I am going to share with you a little sample that I have loved for years and years and years. It's from a thought leader in the industry. Her name is Kathy Moore. And some of you may have remembered this from back in the day. This is retro. I'm taking us back. And I could only find it on SlideShare. And now there's videos in there. Like I'm on YouTube. It's called action mapping. Some of you may have remembered this from years ago. And Kathy's great. So I think she's down in, somebody told me she's in Australia lately. She used to be in Indiana area. But she talked about this whole concept around action mapping. So bear with me. I'm going to click through a few of these screens just to show you this concept of customization and why it's so important. And we'll work through the videos as we go. So she's introducing a concept called action mapping. And it's sort of contextual because it's within the concept of sales. So most corporate training is an info dump. So hopefully we're not doing that anymore, but maybe we still are. Why does this happen? Go to the next screen. Well, we might say our salespeople need to know all about the widgets they're selling. We have to increase knowledge. Well, that's a mistake because no, you're going to, if that's what you're thinking, you're going to build a training course all about widgets. And then you're going to put a lot of information all around that. This has got 10 topics about widgets. And then you're going to roll that thing out. And then when you roll it out, what's going to happen? What will likely happen? Sorry, we have a 2-second video here about Beyonce, and now we're moving on. When you roll that thing out, what's going to happen is, you're probably not going to get more widget sales, and your learner is going to be overwhelmed with boredom. So really, what do we really want? We don't want knowledge, as part of our learning playbook. Well, it's not really what we're after. What we're after is increasing widget sales. That's why we're here, is to improve behavior and to increase, we want action. Now, in some cases you might think, well, knowledge is important, but yes, but there's probably action at the end of that knowledge somehow, somewhere. Some improved customer experience, some better conversation with team members that results in less turnover, right? There's action that we're looking for here. So, then she makes some recommendations. And she says, okay, she provides us a process called action mapping, which actually is a little different. You have your goal, you know what the actions are, then you know what the learner needs to do, and now you provide information around that. So, okay, let's talk first about the business goal. What do we want to create? All right, very specific. We want to increase widget sales 8% by Q4. Okay, we want to avoid, we just need to teach them all about the widgets. Okay, a measurable business goal will help you design relevant activities that will allow you to hang your hat on it. Our training did that thing. So we could go on and on. This has got 20 more slides, but we won't. But if that's your goal, you put that in the middle of the map, and then you start to build from that map. You identify what they need to know in order to effectively do that, and so on. So I wanted to share that as an example of customizing, because I think it is also a mistake with our own learning playbooks internally. For a sales playbook, absolutely, it's a no-brainer. Even marketing. For marketing, there should be a playbook. So if we want to increase leads, this is what we do. And I know our marketing team, which is now an international team, is very, very planful and careful about what they're doing and how they're going about it. And then if we're talking about learning as a function in the organization that actually has a seat at the table to help change behavior, then customizing your playbook is important. What's important for you? There's lots of different learning methodologies out there, but really what's important for you, I think, is where we sometimes miss the boat. Okay, now this concept around a funnel. Sales funnel is easy. We know what comes into a sales funnel, but what kinds of things would you put into the top of a learning funnel? I don't have the answer to this. If some of you do, and you want to throw that in the chat, you certainly can. The first thing I can think of is outcomes. We're going to start with outcomes. We're going to know what they need to do a better job with their job. Let's go back to me. I'm a selfish 53-year-old jaded guy who's been around in this industry a long time. And so now I'm like, hey, I want to have a learning experience that really is about me. So if you're like, okay, Rich, if that's what you want, then tell us about yourself. What's important to you? Some things you got to be careful about. Like you can't get into things that are, protected classes and that. Oh, I love this comment. What success looks like. What success looks like, and you start by the impacted audiences. I think that's a great idea. That's what I'm talking about. So that's a great comment. What does it look like? Let's begin with that. And if you're looking at this department, so I cut my teeth in the financial world. That's where I began my learning journey. I worked 14 years for a financial company. Some of you I think many of you are in financial companies here. And I was supporting the debt recovery teams. So you get your customer service, you get your new accounts teams. I was in the collection side. So supporting debt management recovery. We called them card member assistants. And it was a great organization. I learned a ton there. They really did help launch my career because they helped me. Hopefully you all get this at your organizations. They helped me do what I liked. They helped me jump into what was important to me. And it turns out learning experiences and training and all of that was really important to me. So early on, I was trying to help learners on the floor understand lots and lots of stuff about how to effectively talk to people who are past due on bills. And, how do you do? That's a rough job, by the way. It's a sales job, but leading teams and providing training for that, and lots of compliance and the Fair Debts Collections Practice Act and things we had to train them on. But if I had done a better job of putting in the top of the funnel, what do they need to know? What do they need to understand, believe, and do at the end of the day? And then what am I going to do to help with that? And then back in the day, we didn't even know about adaptive learning, but I think that's got a place with machine learning or AI in the coming. If my career is like this, maybe I got 10 more years in the field. Some of you are just getting going. I bet AI is going to be such a big part of your future. So a lot of what you're building into the top of the funnel will determine what comes out of the bottom. I don't know if I've seen that effectively done, but if we're talking about a playbook, we should be thinking about that. It's a no-brainer in sales and in marketing. If I do these activities, I'm going to get, there's a good chance I'm going to get X number of leads. If I do these activities in sales, I'm going to get this number of leads. In the learning world, if we do these things, we should get these behaviors. So that's why I love Kathy Moore and her action mapping, because there are other thought leaders too who really dig deep in that. I think that's important. Okay, couple of slides left here. I'm going to go about 10 more minutes and I think we'll be done. Input and buy-in. There's a million different studies on this, but I'm going to share with you one of my favorites. This is a link. This is on Harvard Business Review, I think. Oh, no, it's not. It's on, I think it's Insider or Insights. Professor Dan Ariely. Let me go out here. I'm going to open the link in a new window. Professor Dan Ariely, oh, it's on Quartz. He is down in Duke. I actually got to meet him years ago. We were exploring a project, and so we went down and got to sit with him. And I watched his Netflix video. He has a Netflix video called, I think it's called The Truth About Lies. Anyway, all he does is study what motivates us. So this was published a while ago, but he's still doing lots of great work out there. And this book, Pay Off the Hidden Logic That Shapes Our Motivations, or his book, Irrational Predictability, is one that I have on my Kindle. It's phenomenal. Look at this example here. This is just one of them. So in one of his experiments, he asked subjects to build Lego toys called Bionicles. Some of you may know about these. He paid them $2 for the first one they built, and then slightly less for each subsequent toy. So there's just random people on campus or whatever who come in to do this research project. So in one group, after receiving the completed Bionicle, they would turn in their Bionicle. They would set it aside. With another group, the researchers began dismantling the toys as soon as they received them. So can you imagine? You're building your Bionicle. I'm going to build 10 of them and earn $20, and that's going to be my lunch for today. So you're going to build it. You're going to hand it over. And then as you're building your next one, you look over, and the assistant is dismantling it and just putting it aside as soon as you handed it over. In the first group, where it was just set aside and not dismantled, they made an average of 11 Bionicles before giving up. Being like, all right, I'll just take my 20, 17 bucks, whatever. The second group, whom he compared to Sisyphus, right? That's the Greek god who was the figure in Greek mythology who's constantly rolling the rock up the hill and it rolls back on him. They walked away after just making 7. So what's the message here, right? And this is recent studies. This is from 2017 and earlier. But the idea here is they want a sense of purpose. People want to feel like they're contributing, even in a dumb little activity like that. And 11 to 7 is significant when they're talking about it. He's doing this over hundreds of people, and he runs the exercise over a week or whatever, and they all come into his lab. And it's just really cool stuff. I want this guy's job, by the way. But what a great research idea. And we can go all the way down and look at other stuff in here. Companies hire him to look at, they look at what's going on inside the organization. What are the behaviors that exist? I think there was another one in here. Oh, here it is. Let's see. Yeah, he gives this concept of not only create buy-in, but then challenge them. So he asked subjects to build origami cranes and frogs by folding pieces of paper. And then when he asked the builders what they would pay for their creations, they offered an average 5 times more than other potential buyers. So if I created a crane, and I know how to make an origami crane, and it looks nice and it has the wings and you blow in it and it makes bigger wings. But I might say, well, I would, I paid 5 times what others would state that they would pay. But when he deliberately made their tasks harder, the price offered went down because they felt like they were missing some of the key steps. So that one was a little bit more about when you're challenging people to make decisions. It's important to them to feel like they understand what's going on. But I bring that up just to say that he is one of my favorite thought leaders on this concept of what is it people care about. So this concept around input and buy-in is very important. So when you're talking about potentially building a learning playbook at your organization where you want to add some process steps to it, you want to be more planful. Maybe you're feeling like, man, everything just comes at us fast and furious. There's really no structure around it. You can build an effective playbook. And some of you may have programs already, and we're going to give you a way to maybe have that tested here in a second. But it should, the idea around how do we create learning that is behavior changing, learning playbooks can really be a big part of that. And then finally, this integration or common language. Here's an example in the marketing team, marketing alignment. In our company, I've had to learn about these concepts: marketing qualified leads versus sales qualified leads. There's a difference, MQLs versus SQLs. And now our team internally is learning that. And what helped us learn that? Well, our playbooks, or the steps we're taking. This is what we do in order to get marketing qualified leads. This is what we do to get sales qualified leads. Sales and learning stages or sales stages. management team alignment. So now everybody's speaking the same language across all levels of management. And we know, for example, I was showing you, I guess I'll go back. I only have 15 slides here. Oh, here it is right here. So if I'm a sales rep in my company and I'm talking to my boss about my pipeline for March, it's almost the end of Q1. I need to report in on how I'm doing this quarter. Well, most of my deals are in the proposal presented stage. Well, then that should tell my boss that, okay, well, I do not yet have then a verbal commitment. We're not even gotten to the negotiation phase. And so I'm not even close to a closed one project. I got like 7 more steps in there before I can count that closed and then put it up on the board and say, hey, we want a deal for the month or whatever. So that common language, this will give you the right methodology, is going to give you a common language that you can use with everybody. And then in learning stages too, somebody wants a program from you. Well, if you've got your stages identified, you might say, well, we're in the early fact-finding stage. We're in the learner discovery phase. Oh, okay. And if everybody's bought in that that's an important phase, then hopefully we're getting away from managers just saying, hey, just build that for me and get it out on the floor. I need it out by next month. Yeah, well, okay. It's almost the same as, I'm gonna go back again. It's almost the same as a sales manager saying to me, hey, Rich, I want you to close $1 million this month. Oh, well, okay. Well, I've got $100,000 in the contracting and sales orders submitted stage, and accounting is just finalizing, and we'll get the signed contract. I got $100,000 there, but the other $900,000 is back here in proposal presented. And typically proposal presented stage to get to the end takes about 4 weeks. There's no way I can do that by the end of the month. I mean, let's get real, which is why we love this methodology. Let's get real or let's not play. So this common language is important. And then that goes right into my last point, which is clear line of sight. Separate myth from reality. Playbooks will help you do that. It will help you give some process and some rigor to what normally might feel a little bit touchy-feely. So I think that's all the stuff I came up with. And look, I got to 45 minutes in. Are there any comments or questions popping up that we should talk about? Or does anybody have a question? We'd have some time to maybe think about it. Again, apologies for not saying this is what you should do and it should look like this. I know what I've given you here is a lot of what is working with Playbooks in the sales world. There's a lot out there on that. How can we create learning playbooks that have that same sort of dynamic that really could add a lot to what's going on in your organization? But any comments or questions?
All right. I'm not seeing any specific questions yet.
Okay.
Everyone, if you do want to pose a specific question or a hypothetical to Rich, this is your chance. Go ahead and put those in the Q&A or the chat.
Yeah, maybe we could socialize it a little bit. My information is here on this page, the top of the screen. So you can reach out to me either directly through email or on LinkedIn. I do want to suggest to everyone, if you've got a process now, or if you have some solution now that you'd like to take a closer look at, you might try this survey. So this is something that our marketing team has recently launched. It is based on the work of Treon Muller, who is, his business is called the Modern Learning Architect. And he is a thought leader that works with us as a learning strategist. In fact, his new book has just come out on this topic. And we happen to have a 15-question assessment that should take you about 5 minutes to really dive deep on your learning solution, whether it's a playbook or something that's just a program, using this CARES assessment. And when you click into the assessment, I think Stephanie put it right here.
Yes, the link is in the chat for everybody, and I'll put that in the email with the recording as well.
Oh, good. Yeah, thank you. So I think that's great. If you have an opportunity to do that and to really just think about what's going on, when you complete the assessment, it actually goes to Treon. He and I can collaborate on it, and then we can actually take some time to just chat with you about it. There's no cost to any of that. It's just us talking about, well, what if you tried this, or what if you did it this way? Sometimes it's just nice to benchmark. Probably all of us feel that way. I know I do. After 2 years of hunkering down during the pandemic lockdowns, and now we're all much more getting face to face. I miss the collaboration and looking for opportunities to collaborate. And sometimes we just get so siloed, we don't think about reaching out and asking for assistance or help. So this assessment might be a good way to do that.
We do have a question/comment, Rich. Do you think creating a learning playbook would be a good way to get executive buy-in for training programs? Like, would you be able to use this playbook to show the value of the training?
Yes, absolutely. And keep in mind, playbooks, well, if you think about it from a football perspective, a playbook and on the football field or the sports, let's just take sports in general, could be soccer, baseball, basketball, whatever. But the coach has a set of plays that are designed for certain situations. So that presupposes this concept or this notion that we don't come up with playbooks in the moment of need. We come up with them beforehand. So when I'm on the field about to make a decision, that now is not the time to think about what's the right play here. No, it's time to execute on that play. So it will take time to come up with the right playbook that helps to determine how do we as an organization go about handling learning requests. And the steps involved with that and how we do that, there should be maybe an instructional blueprint that's provided first. And then from there, we're going to define instructional strategies. And then we're always going to put a pilot in there. So we're going to have a pilot experience so we can get feedback from the learners. And always, always, always take the time at the beginning of the experience. Design thinking, right? We have empathy for our learners. We want to talk to them. And if you can't get face-to-face with them, maybe it's focus groups. Maybe it's a Zoom meeting where you throw it out there to everyone and say, hey, everybody, we're going to be we're going to have a jam session on this upcoming learning topic. You don't have to join, but if you can, we'd appreciate it. It's going to be on this day at this time. And your learning team just sits there. They open up the webinar and they wait for folks to join. And if they do, you have a little focus group. But now you've got actual people who are in there helping you, or it's an assessment that goes out or something. But all those steps need to be defined up front. And yes, I would suggest that your executive team would love that. And they would get behind it, especially if you can show metrics around it, which always is tough, but not impossible. It's that highest level of Patrick levels of evaluation, as many of us know. But great question.